Did you hear that Rabbi Rudolph is gonna retire? Retire? Does that mean he needs a new tire on his bike?
When they all reach the Red Sea, when the Lord stopped the waters, when they all cross the Red Sea, my Lord, deliver me, my Lord, deliver me, my Lord, deliver me,
I grew up in Philadelphia. My parents were teachers and principals in the Philadelphia public school system. And my father, in his spare time, was a principal of a religious school. So I loved it there. I loved the Hebrew. I loved religious school, which is, I know, unusual. I loved what the rabbis did. I spent some time watching that. Thought that that would be something that I might want to do myself someday. I did a lot of school, 12 years of regular school, 4 years of college, 5 years of rabbinic school, 4 years of PhD school before I actually ever had a job or made a living of any kind. I was finishing my PhD slowly, so I began to say, well, how can I stay involved in higher education and take a somewhat similar route, which uses my rabbinic training too, and Hillel was an obvious answer to that. So the Hillel down the street at the East Lansing, Michigan State University was open at the time, and I took the job. The work is very challenging, stimulating. The students come from many different backgrounds, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox. You know, one size doesn't fit all. I think you learn not just to tolerate, but really to embrace diversity. This was the old days of Hillel, where it was me and a part-time secretary, and that was it. It took me about 1.5 years to figure out that I can't do everything. That was a very important moment in my life. So then, how does anything get done? You have to empower people. You form committees and you work with them and you make things happen. Ann Arbor is a wonderful place to be. That's where my second Hillel position was, but I got the call from the headquarters of Hillel, which is here in Washington, to be the National Director of Personnel, and it seemed like a good thing to do. So I came here in 1980, began to learn about life as an administrative rabbi.
Working with Bill was fun. It was fun because he so loved what we were doing, and he so loved the Jewish people.
Over time, I was missing more and more was actual being in contact with people that are yearning for things. 3 years after I came to Washington, I started at Bethel. I began working here very part-time. There was more and more need for more rabbinic help. So in 1996, I became the full-time assistant and associate rabbi. I became senior rabbi in 2001, and this was a very challenging time in the life of this congregation. My predecessor had to leave. He took some of our members with him. Friendships that had been going on for years were broken up because people didn't see things the same way, and even the people who stayed were not happy with the way things had been handled. It was the hardest time in my rabbinate by far.
One of the first things he did was start a process called Atid, which means future. And he pulled together a group of congregants who did a long look at who we are, what the congregation is like, and where we want to go.
I began to figure out whether what I had learned in Hillel would actually work in a synagogue, which I always thought it would, but I wasn't sure. And this synagogue is where it works so well because we have such human resources. So if you're looking for people to empower, it ain't hard to find them. And we began to create more and more choices so that people could have different minyanim to go to if they wished, and different numbers of school days for our religious school, and it slowly but surely worked.
I think at Hillel, he learned to define Jewish life not in terms of an institution, but in terms of a peoplehood.
In a way, he sort of runs the synagogue like a Hillel and lets people come to him with ideas and then helps support them. He helps people find their Judaism at whatever level is important to them.
Having people step up and step forward with their passions is what he's instilled in the community and influenced me as my mentor.
I guess the thing that impressed me the most was how he let the lay leadership pretty much run the congregation. Obviously, he was our leader. He had ideas of where he wanted the congregation to go, but overall, he just was very supportive.
Different cadres of members came to the clergy and said, you know, we want to do this kind of program, and we wanted to meet this often. and we're glad to have your advice and counsel, and we hope you'll come, but we want to own it. It really works beautifully, and the best examples are our Kol Neshama High Holiday service, and it's the most popular service by far, but you got to get over that.
He's willing to let people come in and take it away, and he doesn't have the ego thinking that he's losing anything. He sees the greater good in everyone.
Every night, it's gotta look like I know the words. When it's dark and when it's light.
A big piece of my childhood was family camp. And my dad actually helped found it, and he jokes around that he immediately asked Rabbi Rudolph to be a part of it, and Rabbi Rudolph said, yes, but only if I can be the athletic director. He was fun. He always led the adults in cheers. He just had such a young spirit about him. He brought out the kid in all of the adults who were there.
I think it's really fun to be Jewish, and I try to convey that. Not fun in the sense that it's all partying and having a good time, but that it makes my life so much richer than it would be otherwise, and I try by example just to convey that. Sometimes I do it by sense of humor. Supposedly I have one, and I think you need one for work like this or else you're really in trouble. Retirement of Rabbi Rudolph. Who knew?
One year I was on the Bima on Yom Kippur with Aryeh Portnoy and Rabbi Rudolph. Our backs were to the congregation as the ark was open, and we noticed around the same time under the ark a single Cheerio. And I guess Bill was a little hungry, but in that very moment, in his perfect comic timing, he whispered to Aryeh, "I'll arm wrestle you for that Cheerio."
Yeah, he does really have a sense of fun. He's able to wield that wry sense of humor and just be absolutely hilarious in any context while still keeping his gravitas. It's a very rare combination, and I've always found it delightful.
Good to see you, and mazel tov
You look
to you.
the same as ever.
Well, I've lost 35 pounds.
You look thinner.
Yeah, that's right.
His dry sense of humor is shared all the time, from classes to sermons to being on the Bima to just being in a meeting with him.
Okay, nobody got too dressed up, huh? So when I worked for Hillel, we always had records. So one of the records was for the tallest person ever to daven at a Hillel minyan. That was Ralph Sampson. Rumor is when he leaned over for the Aleinu that his head was 2 rows further ahead than his body.
I don't know that many cantors who get to work with rabbis who became rabbis because of synagogue music. Bill has had this passion for music that really, you can just hear it when he's singing along with nearly everything. He's been involved in Megillah Madness. He's been involved at the beginning of the instrumental service here at Bethel. His real passion for things that grab at people's hearts is always visible, and music is definitely there.
I think people know that biking is rather important to me. It's a time for me to think, and I meet a lot of nice people.
He was as excited as we were that he had this group that he had brought together, not only to raise money for a really great cause, but to come to Israel. And no one is more supportive of Israel than Rabbi Rudolph. We all know that. When I rode that last 20 yards and I saw my rabbi in front of me, I get emotional even talking about it, but he was there welcoming us in, and as soon as he handed us our juice bar and gave us a hug, he was on to the next Bethel rider. He was so happy for all of us to have made it down safely, and I thought that was just really very special.
The beauty of a job like this is there's so many joys. There's tourists too, but the joys are great, and every bar bat mitzvah is really special. And every time I'm with them, I say, how am I so lucky as to be able to share this moment with them and their families, that a moment they'll never forget.
I'll just miss his perfectly timed, incredibly dry humor. I mean, it's just great to be up there with him and feel so comfortable.
I will so miss his beautiful writing, his wonderful sermons, always with humor, but always with a really good lesson.
I'm also going to miss Gail's warmth and approachability. Gail is a model for us, and I know has been so helpful as we got used to Bethel but also as we learned what it means to be a clergy family. Gail has always been a gentle ear for us.
There's just something about the way Bill has led the shul and the kind of person he is that really makes it a safe place to be.
I'm really blessed with a group of professionals and administrative staff and building staff that are really, really special people. So I'm going to miss that. I'll miss the members. Our congregation is blessed with very few nudniks, so I'm really happy to see almost every single person in the shul. The simchas, the b'nai mitzvah, the weddings, just watching the creativity and talent of our people. You know, it's like furthers my belief in God a lot, but also makes me really grateful. And so, you know, I won't see as much of that. I'll miss that. And the other thing I miss is one practical thing. It's standing in the atrium of Congregation Bethel on a Sunday morning and seeing the hordes of people, young and old, pouring in and pouring out, and just saying, look what we've built here.
Rabbi Rudolph will miss you.
How lucky we were to have you at Bethel.
That is good, Rabbi Rudolph.
Jose, who's going to eat all the green herring now?
Mazel tov, Rabbi Rudolph. Fight on. To our favorite Torah teacher.